And then there's this. This one is just, this blows me away. Let's go to this. I think David brought this up on his program today. TSA chief, check out the gaslighting on this, okay? And again, one of the problems with when you get politicians engaging in gaslighting is how normalcy bias mixes into the gaslighting. So again, we're only in the news flash here. We haven't even gotten to the Russian Crimea thing with the details on that. I want to give you that in a big meaty chunk. But it'll be like, the Brontosaurus burger or the big rib coming down on the Fred Flintstone car, Look at the way that they depict it, just even in the headline here. TSA chief says biometrics and tech could lower the stress of traveling. So let's start from the back end first. What is the stress of traveling to which he refers? The stress, of course, is the security gate. Who is supplying all of the forces for that stress? The feds, the TSA. What is not sanctioned by the federal Constitution? The TSA, the DHS, the FAA. Again, bring it up. If you watch the early weeks of this program, I got to show you the photographs of those giant cement arrows and how the FAA was created as a result of the United States Postal Service claiming a monopoly over transcontinental air routes that were created to allow for air mail in the early 1920s. They established these routes. They banned real commercial flyers from being able to fly the routes. They didn't use radar. They used VFR, visual flight rules. And at night, and you can still see vestiges of these when I was a kid in the 70s, you could see these lights. They would have these lights that ran east, west, north, south, southeast, southwest, this sort of thing. And at night, even at night, pilots would fly VFR back in the old days before they had radar. They would use those lights at night, and in the daytime, they had giant arrows on the ground. The U.S. Postal Service claimed a monopoly on those air routes. From there, the Federal Aviation Administration was started, and that was a big, big political hot potato, treasure chest that FDR then utilized to pull in all sorts of support from city, municipal, and state politicians, because he would dangle the carrot of money to go to them to become part of this new air system that they were creating with the FAA so that they could get in on their city being part of the hub. And as I mentioned, that's how Chicago became a hub, one of the worst possible areas you could have a hub airport because of its weather. Whether it's the summertime, they get terrible thunderstorms and terrible winds, or it's the wintertime and they have the winds and the snow coming off the lake. It's just a bad place for a hub airport. But they put it there. Why? Because Chicago politicians were some of the most corrupt, most influential all through the 20th century. Now, well, they're possibly getting exposed for their corruption. I don't know. We'll see what happens with the new Chicago mayor. But Illinois is an incredibly, incredibly corrupt place. Just ask Governor Pritzker. So that happened. And so the entire air route system that we have is not based on anything that has to do with the market. Now, they utilize, as I've often mentioned, an erroneous misreading of the Interstate Commerce Clause to say that anything that goes over state borders can be so-called regulated. In other words, you will be threatened by the federal government if you fly a plane over state borders. That's the way it works. And if you want to open an airport, they're going to invade the airport and breach the Fourth Amendment, right? They will do that. They will also breach all sorts of other things too, because when they do their searches, they also take stuff away and throw it away. That's a punishment. That's a seizure. They're not compensating you for that, are they? No. They're also interfering between private contractors. So as I mentioned on Substack, if you're one of the subscribers, one of the paid subscribers there, it's very clear that these people on a daily basis are breaching the Fourth Amendment, and they're interceding between you and the person with whom you want to engage in private, peaceful commerce. Now, many people say, what would happen if the TSA didn't exist? It wouldn't be any worse. Over and over again, as David Knight mentioned on his show today, or was it yesterday? No, it was today. a case coming out of Texas where the feds were trying to make sure that the TSA searches were conducted in Texas, and they actually put forward a document that was unredacted. They made a mistake, and it showed that internally the people at the TSA literally called it security theater. We've seen when Brian Ross was on ABC, we've seen over and over again. Janet Napolitano even admitted it when she was involved with the government. She said, we're not seeing any improvement. Brian Ross with ABC, they would do these tests where they would bring in bomb-like substances that would get through and should not have gotten through the TSA searches. So we're not implying that there wouldn't be any security. We're implying that we would actually have some measure of security that would be addressable to us in conjunction with our desires for privacy and to be able to privately contract. Right now, it's all gangland. It's all forced on us, and we don't even know what they're doing, even behind the scenes, as they claim to each other. They cite the fact that it's security theater. So just off the headline on this, we get so much that, again, it's normalcy bias, and gaslighting operates very, very efficiently off of normalcy bias because new generations don't realize what used to be. So we grew up in an era where we didn't know that the United States had insinuated itself through Roosevelt and payoffs for airports and things like that into the entire network system that we have when we're boarding planes and we're getting delayed and all these problems pop up. All the time, they blame the airports. They blame the flight corporations. And really, what we're seeing is that it has nothing to do with the real market. So this here, right in the start, we have lower stress of traveling. Well, the stress of traveling that to which they're referring is caused by them. This is a Hegelian dialectic. And now they're saying, so they present its problem, reaction, solution. They create the problem, and then they say, oh, you're reacting to it. Yeah, this is bad, isn't it? This is rough stuff. We've got a solution for you. Now, all you have to do is provide us with your biometric data. Just give us your iris. Just scan. And this is the story from Aviation Pros, Alexandra Scores. I actually wrote this for the Dallas Morning News, and they reprinted it at Aviation Pros. Transportation Secretary Administration Chief David Pekosk said the agency wants to use technology to reduce the number of screening officers in checkpoints, and speed up travel processes as passenger volumes increase. And of course, as a little aside here, just to mention, please never forget, again, you get the gaslighting and people get the normalcy bias. Never forget that the scanners that are there thanks to Michael Chertoff, head of the Chertoff Group, but also who was former Homeland Security czar in the Bush administration. Then, just after the underwear bomber situation occurred, where he was escorted aboard the plane as two unidentified guys in dark suits approached the people from the airline and helped get this guy aboard. The bomb didn't go off properly, but caused a pretty bad fire and caused some problems for folks aboard that plane. Never forget, and there are a couple things I want to bring up. Never forget, one, Chertoff was with the Bush administration when that happened. Then he left and he joined Rapiscan, which amazingly got the no-bid contract for all of the scanners for all the airports in the United States. Two, in 2006, when they had the Heathrow Airport, 2005, 2006, when they had the Heathrow Airport liquid bomber plot that they supposedly, stopped. Two things about that. Chertoff was Homeland Security czar at that time. Chertoff literally claimed that they had worked closely with the British authorities to foil that, which was absolutely not the case. The only thing that the TSA, that the DHS of the United States, the Homeland Security, which again is unconstitutional. The only thing that they did was not say anything. The only thing the Brits asked of them was, please don't say anything about what we're doing. Sure enough, they didn't provide any information. They didn't provide any telemetry. They didn't provide any officers, nothing. Chernoff just promised to not say anything. Zip it. Can I get some lasers here? How about some scanners? Right? Where's Robert Wagner with the eye patch when you need him, right? So that's all it was. And then after they did the busted Heathrow, then Chernoff's got the audacity to say, we're moving into a new modality here. We have, remember how everybody had to throw away their nail clippers? Because those would just be so hazardous aboard a plane. Remember that? So again, normalcy bias, if you're too young to remember, if you weren't around at that time, or you were a little kid and didn't hear anything about it and didn't see it as it transpired, after 9/11, they took a little while, but then they literally would make everybody throw their nail clippers away in the trash baskets at the airports that, of course, they had inserted themselves into because, nail clippers are so incredibly dangerous, right? And then Chernoff's got the audacity to say, well, we've established the security on that front. We're moving past that now, and we're looking at liquid explosives. Now, for people like me, and you're probably like me, who were following this at the time, we were well aware of the fact that about a decade before that, a terrorist had boarded a plane in Japan with a small plastic 35 millimeter film container, an electric battery powered wristwatch, cotton, nitroglycerin in an eye drop container, tape, and wire. And guess what he made when he went into the bathroom of a plane while it was in the air flying out of Japan? That's right, he made a nitro explosive. He put it all together, set the timer, went back to his seat, stuck it under the seat with the tape. Then they had a point where he got off. They stopped somewhere, I don't know exactly where. He got off the plane. Someone else, totally innocent person, got on the plane. The bomb detonated. This is 10 years before the Heathrow thing. 10 years before Chernoff says, now we're learning we can move into another modality about liquid explosives. Like, dude, are you serious? These are the guys whom your tax money paid to keep you safe. And he's talking about now learning about liquid explosives. That bomb aboard that Japanese plane blew that guy up, killed him, and created a hole so big in the plane they almost crashed. They had to bring it down in Korea. Unbelievable. That's Michael Chernoff. And guess what? As I mentioned, Michael Chernoff took over after Nina Jankowicz left the Ministry of Truth. The ministry is still there. The Disinformation Governance Board is still there. It's just that they got rid of the high-profile person and put in Mr. Skull Mask. Skeletor. I should talk, right?